Lauren and I met at a friend's backyard barbecue on a warm July evening. She wore a simple blue dress and carried herself like she didn't need anyone's approval. I liked that immediately. She laughed easily, asked about my work, and didn't look bored when I talked about machines. Most people tuned out after the first minute. But she leaned in, genuinely listening. We exchanged numbers that night, and the next day she texted first. That small move told me she was confident. Our first date was at a diner by the river. She ordered pancakes for dinner and said life was too short to follow rules. I remember thinking she was the kind of woman who made the ordinary feel alive. We started seeing each other every weekend, then every day. She'd come over after work, kick off her shoes, and fill my quiet house with energy. Lauren had this way of turning routine into comfort. She'd hum while cooking, talk to herself while folding laundry. I used to watch her from the couch and think, this is what peace feels like. She paid for her share on dates, sometimes even refused when I tried to cover. That made me trust her more. No hidden motives, no games. Just two adults building something real. When she met my friends, they liked her immediately. My best friend Mark said, "Don't screw this one up." I laughed because I already knew he was right. 8 months later, we decided she'd move in. It felt natural. Her apartment lease was ending, and we were inseparable anyway. She brought her essentials first, then slowly her presence spread through my space. A coffee maker on my counter. Her favorite blanket on my couch. Little signs that my life was no longer just mine. I didn't mind. I liked waking up to her beside me. Our mornings were slow and simple. She'd drink coffee, scroll her phone, tease me for checking emails too early. At night, we'd cook together, watch old movies, fall asleep with her head on my chest. It wasn't fireworks every day, but it was steady, warm, safe. That kind of comfort you don't question until it's gone. She talked about wanting to travel one day, maybe open her own dental studio. I supported every plan. We saved together, joked about getting a dog, even talked vaguely about marriage. For the first time, I let my guard down completely. Lauren's family seemed kind, too. Her mom invited me for Thanksgiving. We laughed, shared stories, and it felt like I belonged. Everything about her life seemed transparent, stable, honest. She made me believe that not every love story had to end in disaster. The first small cracks didn't even look like cracks then. A mention of her ex-boyfriend, Ryan, here and there. A text she said was just an old friend. Tiny things that I brushed off as harmless. If only I knew those were the first quiet notes of a song that would end in chaos. But back then, all I saw was a woman I loved, and a life I thought would last. It started with small things. Lauren mentioned Ryan, her ex, a few times in casual conversation. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone has a past, and she spoke of him like a distant memory. But then, his name kept coming up more often. We'd be watching a movie, and she'd say, "Ryan hated this one." Or at the grocery store, "Ryan used to buy these snacks." It was subtle, but it chipped away at my comfort. I told myself not to be paranoid. I wanted to be the calm, trusting boyfriend. Still, a small part of me wondered why she couldn't let that ghost rest. Then, around the start of the year, Lauren told me she needed surgery. She said she'd torn her ACL years ago playing volleyball. Her knee had been getting worse, and now she could barely go upstairs. She showed me medical papers, official forms, everything looked legitimate. Her insurance, she said, would only cover part of it. She needed around $8.5 grand for deductibles and copies. She looked exhausted and worried when she talked about it. Tears in her eyes, hands shaking as she said she might have to delay again. I felt sorry for her. I'd seen her limp a few times, but never thought it was serious. I told her I'd help. She refused at first, said it was too much money. But I insisted. We were a team. I had savings set aside for a truck or maybe a bigger house, but this felt more important. She cried when I transferred the money. She said no one had ever done something like that for her. She promised she'd pay me back. I told her not to worry about it. It wasn't about the money. It was about love, trust, partnership. That night, she hugged me like she never wanted to let go. I thought it meant everything was right between us. Her surgery was scheduled for mid-March. I took the day off work to drive her. Waited 4 hours in the hospital lobby until she came out groggy but smiling. I brought her home, set up her recovery space on the couch. Ice packs, snacks, her favorite blanket, the TV remote within reach. I cooked, cleaned, helped her to the bathroom. She said I was her rock. I felt proud, needed, important. But about 2 weeks into recovery, something shifted. She became distant. Always on her phone, screen tilted away from me. Started smiling at messages, but never said who they were from. I asked once, and she said it was just her mom. Then she said her friend, Emma, would drive her to physical therapy. I offered, but she said no. I worked too hard already. I trusted her. That was my mistake. Because soon, her schedule didn't make sense. Therapy sessions ran long. She came home hours later than expected. One day, curiosity got the better of me. I called the clinic. They said her appointments were always in the morning, never in the afternoon. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. But I told myself maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was overthinking. I wanted to believe that. Because the alternative, that she was lying, was too heavy to face. Not yet. The afternoon she vanished started like any other Tuesday. I came home from work around 5, expecting to find her on the couch. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No TV noise, no smell of dinner, no sign of life. Her car wasn't in the driveway, but that wasn't strange at first. Then I walked into the bedroom. Half of the closet was empty. Her clothes, shoes, and jewelry were gone. The bathroom counter was bare. No makeup, no perfume bottles, not even her toothbrush. Her laptop was missing from the desk. My heart began to pound. I checked the kitchen. Even her expensive coffee maker was gone. On the counter sat a single white envelope. My name writ in her neat handwriting. Inside, just one short note. It said, "Ethan, I need time to figure things out. Please don't contact me." That was it. No reason, no goodbye, no explanation. I called her phone. It went straight to voicemail. Her voice was cheerful, recorded weeks ago. "Hey, it's Lauren, leave a message." I left one, then another, then 5. No response. I texted her, begged her to tell me she was safe. Silence. I called her mom. She sounded cold, distant. Said Lauren needed space, and that I should respect her decision. Then she hung up. I called her best friend Emma. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. Her other friend, Jessica, picked up but told me to stop calling everyone. Said Lauren was fine, and hung up before I could speak. I sat in my living room for hours staring at that note. It didn't make sense. We hadn't fought. That morning, we joked about what to order for dinner. Chinese or pizza. Everything felt normal. Now she was gone like she'd never existed. My best friend Mark came over that night. I showed him the note. He read it, looked at me and said, "Man, she's either cheating or losing her mind." I didn't want to believe either. But his words echoed in my head all night. The next days were torture. I kept expecting her to walk through the door. I called, texted, emailed. Nothing. A week later, I got a text from an unknown number. "Stop looking for me. I'm safe. Delete my number." My hands shook as I read it. The woman I loved was telling me to erase her from my life. I tried to stay calm, to move on. Went to work, hit the gym, tried to act normal. But every corner of the house reminded me of her. Her pillow on the couch. Her tea in the cupboard. The dent in the mattress where she used to sleep. I kept replaying every moment, searching for clues. What had I missed? What had I done wrong? Weeks passed, and the silence grew heavier. I stopped sleeping. Stopped eating properly. It felt like she'd died, but worse, because I didn't even know why. All I had left was that stupid note, and a growing fear that the truth would be uglier than I could imagine. 3 weeks after Lauren disappeared, someone knocked on my door. It was a woman in a dark suit holding a badge. She introduced herself as Rebecca Shaw from the State Insurance Investigation Division. Her tone was calm but serious. She asked if I knew a Lauren Miller. I told her Lauren had been my girlfriend until she vanished. Rebecca's eyebrows lifted slightly. She opened a folder and said they were investigating an insurance claim filed under Lauren's name. A claim for a car accident dated February 28th. According to the report, Lauren said the crash caused a severe knee injury. She had submitted medical bills for $47,000. I felt my stomach drop. Rebecca asked if I knew about the accident. I told her Lauren never mentioned anything about a car crash. Her car had no damage. She told me the surgery was for an old volleyball injury. Rebecca nodded slowly and wrote something down. She said the medical records matched my story, not Lauren. The surgery was for an old injury, not a recent one. That meant Lauren had lied on her claim. I sat there in disbelief. Rebecca continued, saying the insurance company had already paid nearly $38,000. They suspected fraud and were trying to locate her. They couldn't reach her by phone, email, or certified mail. She'd quit her job the same week she left me. No notice, no forwarding address, just gone. Everything suddenly clicked in my head. Her secret phone calls. The mysterious therapy appointments. The sudden disappearance. It wasn't heartbreak, it was a cover-up. Rebecca asked if I knew anyone Lauren might be staying with. I mentioned her mom, her friends, and then I remembered Ryan. Her ex. The one she talked about constantly before she left. I told Rebecca his name and that he lived in Ohio. She wrote it down immediately. Do you know his last name? She asked. I said I thought it was Carter. She thanked me for the information and handed me her card. If you hear from her, call me right away, she said. When she left, I sat alone, realizing I'd been scammed. Lauren hadn't just ghosted me. She used me. She'd taken my money, faked an accident, stolen from an insurance company, and vanished with her ex. I felt sick. The woman I'd cooked for, cared for, loved, had played me from the start. That night, I sent Rebecca an email with a screenshot I found on Instagram. Lauren was tagged in a post from a restaurant in Cleveland. Her leg looked healed. The caption said, "Good to have you back." The account belonged to Ryan Carter. The next morning, Rebecca called me. Her voice was sharper this time. "Mr. Parker, that's exactly what we needed. We believe she's in Cleveland." She thanked me again and said they were coordinating with Ohio authorities. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of anger and relief. Finally, I had answers. Finally, I knew the truth. Lauren hadn't disappeared to find herself. She'd run away to escape justice. And for the first time since she left, I hoped she'd be caught. A week later, Rebecca called again. Her tone was brisk, but with a hint of satisfaction. "We found her," she said. Lauren was living in Cleveland with Ryan Carter. They had both been interviewed the day before. Lauren confessed to filing a fake car accident claim. She admitted Ryan had convinced her it would be easy money. He worked as a paralegal, knew how to manipulate the system. He'd done it before with other people, taking a cut each time. Lauren said she only wanted the surgery covered. But they'd taken it further fabricating reports and fake photos. Rebecca said both were now facing felony charges. Insurance fraud and falsifying official documents. I felt a rush of anger, but also closure. The truth was uglier than I'd imagined, but at least I had it. I thanked Rebecca for letting me know and hung up. Then I sat in silence for a long time. The person I'd trusted most had lied to everyone, not just me. And somehow, she dragged me into the edges of her crime. That night, I met my friend Mark for a beer. He listened quietly as I told him everything. When I finished, he shook his head and said, "Man, you dodged a bullet." Maybe he was right. $8,500 was a brutal price, but not my freedom. A few weeks later, I decided to file a civil lawsuit. If the insurance company could make her pay, so could I. My lawyer said I had a solid case. The payment wasn't a gift. It was made under false pretenses. We submitted bank records, text messages, and the full timeline. Meanwhile, Lauren's criminal case moved forward in Michigan. She was charged officially and released under supervision. Ryan faced similar charges, but less severe since he cooperated early. Months passed, filled with paperwork and court updates. I learned she'd lost her job, her license, and her professional credibility. When the hearing finally came, I didn't attend. I didn't want to see her face again. My lawyer called afterward and said she looked broken. Apparently, she cried through most of the deposition. Her defense tried to argue she was desperate and manipulated. But the evidence was too strong. She signed a plea deal, 3 years probation and full restitution to the insurer. Ryan got 1 year and a fine, effectively ending his career. For me, justice felt partial. The law didn't care about the $8,000 I'd lost. So we continued the civil suit. Every call from my lawyer reminded me that closure wasn't free. But I kept going. I wanted her to face every consequence. In the quiet moments, though, I wondered how I'd missed all the signs. How someone so kind could be so cold underneath. Mark said some people don't break, they're just built wrong. Maybe that was true. I stopped thinking of her as the woman I loved. She became just another story about greed and regret. And I knew one day, the story would catch up to her completely. Months after the trial, life finally started to feel normal again. I focused on work, kept my distance from anything that reminded me of her. Then one night in late November, she came back. I pulled into my driveway after work and saw a figure sitting on the porch. It was Lauren. She looked nothing like the woman I remembered. Her hair was messy, her face pale, her eyes hollow. She stood up as I got out of the car. "Ethan, please, I just need to talk," she said, her voice shaking. I stayed by the car door. "There's nothing left to say," I told her. She took a step closer, tears streaming down her face. "I lost everything," she said. "Ryan left me, my family won't speak to me." I said nothing. She kept talking, her words spilling like confession. "I can't find work. No one will hire me. I can't pay the restitution." Then she begged. "Please, drop the lawsuit. I can't afford it. I'm living in my car." I almost laughed. "The same car you claimed was in an accident?" I asked. She winced. Her voice broke. "I sold that one. I'm driving my mom's old Honda now." I crossed my arms and shook my head. "Lauren, you made your choices. I warned you about consequences." She sobbed harder, clutching her hands together. "I was stupid, Ethan. Ryan convinced me it was harmless. He said insurance companies wouldn't notice." I stared at her, but all the anger was gone. There was nothing left to feel. "You didn't just lie to them," I said. "You lied to me, you stole from me." She tried to reach for my hand. I stepped back. "Please," she whispered. "I'll pay you back, I swear, I just need time." "No," I said quietly. "You don't get more time." Her shoulders sank. She looked smaller than I remembered. I walked past her and opened my front door. "Leave, Lauren." If you don't, I'll call the police. She nodded slowly, wiped her face, and walked down the steps. From inside, I watched her sit in the car and cry for a long time. Then she drove away into the dark. That was the last time I saw her. 2 weeks later, my lawyer called. Her attorney had offered a settlement. She'd pay $3,000 up front, then $1,000 a month for 5 months. $8,000 in total. He told me to take it. It was better than going to trial. I agreed. She made the payments on time, every month like clockwork. When the final check cleared, I felt the last thread between us snap. A mutual friend later told me she'd tried to get back with Ryan. He told her to get lost. Said she'd ruined her life for nothing. Maybe he was right. As for me, I got promoted that December. Bought a new truck, started fresh. Sometimes, when I drive home at night, I still think about her. Not with love, not with hate. Just as a reminder of how trust, once broken, never truly heals. Time passed, and life quietly stitched itself back together. I stopped checking old messages, stopped wondering what she was doing. The silence that once haunted me became peaceful again. Lauren became a ghost of a story I'd outgrown. People said karma always finds its way. I believed it after seeing what she became. She lost her job, her name, her freedom, her future. All for a few $1,000s, and a lie she couldn't control. I didn't need revenge anymore. Justice had already done its work. Some nights, I'd think about how easily trust can turn into a weapon. How love can blind even the smartest person. But I wasn't bitter anymore. I was free. I rebuilt my savings, bought a new home, and started living without fear. I laughed again, slept again, lived again. The past stayed where it belonged, behind me. Lauren's chapter in my life closed for good. And if there's one thing I learned, it's this. Losing money hurts, but losing yourself for someone who lied hurts more. And I'd rather be broke than blind ever again.